But this year, yeah, because Claire might do. I'm just thinking he's I really like I gotta be honest with you. It looks perfect. We're supposed to cover it out. That's good action. I don't know. I was kind of looking forward to it because it was like really low. I was like, oh, I can drive like 3 miles and see the animals. Christmas tree whole thing on.
We still unwrap it outside. Yes, yeah. No, we just plan for it.
I was
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I live in California. Yeah, actually, it was. Prices were really quite up, so
That's my thing. I'm just like,
just trying to get people out of the way. She's not gonna be like, yeah, people getting sick. I guess so. I like it. I thought it was great. I just lost it.
Right. You know,
They're nice for
the patrons, but that's what it was, right?
Welcome everybody. Welcome to the Catholic Charities Catalyst Project. Today is a day for celebrating the first step of a solution towards our struggle with homelessness in this community. I'm very happy to have you all here. I want to give a special welcome to Governor Inslee and his wife Trudy and Lisa Brown and Roger Millar, his secretary for the Department of Transportation. But we're going to have the governor say a few words and then we'll have some opportunity for questions. But just a big thank you for everyone for being here, and without any further ado, Governor Inslee. Thank you.
Good morning. This is a really happy day, not just for the Spokane community, for the whole state of Washington, because it is yet another step forward in ending the homelessness crisis that is affecting our state. And this Catalyst project is exactly what we need to have a long-term solution to a long-term problem of homelessness. And I was pleased to walk in. The first thing I saw in the lobby were butterflies, monarch butterflies. They have them on the wall down there. I was very impressed by that. And I think it is a perfect metaphor of what we are confident is going to happen for over 100 people here in this facility, which is to give them a new shot at life, to give them a secure, private housing option where they are supported by mental health professionals, where they are provided security, and where they can get their feet under them so that they can really have a permanent housing solution. And I want to stress permanence. This Catalyst facility is not a Band-Aid. It is not sweeping people under the rug. It is addressing their permanent long-term problems so that they can be permanently housed. And that's what we need across the state of Washington. Now, this is not the only thing we need to do in Spokane County across the state of Washington. We also need shelter space, congregate shelters, which we are providing across the state of Washington as well. But the beauty and the genius of this facility is at providing people who have real challenges, mental health challenges, chemical addiction challenges, veterans with PTSD, people who have had a lot of rough times in their lives, the ability to get help. And I'm impressed from what I've heard already that the people here, the 100 people who will be here, will have 4 dedicated mental health professionals on site all the time and 2 chemical addiction specialists to help them to get back on their feet. Now, this has been a challenging and frustrating thing for us across the state of Washington, in a place with one of the hottest economies in the world. It's the most attractive places to live, where people are moving all over the United States to come to see people having to live in squalor in this regard. And I know that we are dedicated to doing better as a state. But to do that, we have to recognize that this takes enormous investment, it takes enormous commitment, and it takes enormous resolution. And we are doing all those 3 things here at this facility and ones like them across the state of Washington. We've had a $145 million commitment by the state of Washington to help people off of our right-of-ways and into fast, rapid housing. And this here has been very rapid. I just talked to a gentleman that got this facility upgraded and made habitable within 60 days, including a new fire suppression system. That is an amazing achievement. This is actually happening very quickly given the needs to build these facilities. But making that $25 million investment that the state of Washington is making in Spokane County is being done in a smart way that's going to have long-term results for this community. And I couldn't be more pleased to see what is happening in this regard. Now, this is not going to solve all our problems, but there's another 250 space available for people as part of this project that has already been funded by the legislature, that I'm pleased that the Department of Commerce is bringing online in the upcoming months. This is just what you might think of as the first 100 to help people through this problem. Now, this is going to be a big step forward to providing housing so that folks at Camp Hope can go to a better long-term solution so that that place won't be necessary anymore. We look forward to that as fast as humanly possible. So with that, I'd like to ask Lisa to come to the podium to talk a little more detail about the work that we're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor, and good morning, everybody. I'm not going to talk very long. I'm having voice issues that other people have had around the state. I want to reiterate what the governor said, and that is that there are a lot of frustrations out there. That Camp Hope hasn't been resolved faster, but this is really an important step in the right direction. And we have funded other steps in the right direction that are going to become obvious in the days ahead. The legislature and the governor, in providing the funds specifically for people on the right-of-way, made it clear that they wanted an emphasis on long-term solutions. So while we are also helping with the operating of people who will be moving into shelters or who are already moving into the, for example, the Trent shelter, a significant part of the funds are for people to be assessed and to be transitioned to facilities or housing options that are appropriate for them. So it's not just about a bed, it's about the support that moves an individual from homelessness, sometimes chronic long-term homelessness, into stability. And that requires behavioral health assessment. That often requires alcohol or drug treatment. It often requires a peer navigator. The peer navigators that we fund are a really important part of this, as I'm sure Rob and other private providers will tell you. These are people who have themselves experienced homelessness or addiction, involvement with the criminal justice system, but they came out on the other side, and now they are helping other people go along the same path. So I know there's frustration that this isn't faster. I know there's frustration that it isn't cheaper, but I want to assure people that what we're doing is moving on a path that we think will have the best long-term impact for the people themselves experiencing homelessness, but also for the neighborhoods and the community that's negatively affected by people living on the streets. And I know it's very distressing for all of us when we see it. And so we don't want to see it anymore. And this path that we're on is all about ensuring long-term effectiveness as well as long-term cost effectiveness for the taxpayer, so that we're not just right back here next year with the same thing or the issue even worse. I've personally participated in 2 of our Spokane County point-in-time counts. We do them once a year in the winter as a requirement of the federal government to count the people living outside or living in shelters or sleeping in shelters. And having participated in that, I can tell you that our official numbers show the numbers gotten worse and worse every year. The long-term solution for that is more housing and more behavioral health and supportive solutions tailored for the individual's needs. This right-of-way initiative that's funding $25 million for Spokane County is only one piece of the housing and behavioral investments that the state is making all across Washington State. So in addition to this piece, there are $22 million of other housing developments that are currently underway. A vets project on North Lacey, a project in Airway Heights, Gonzaga Family Haven. So all of that is underway as well. There's a specific initiative for youth. Thank you, First Lady Trudy Inslee, for being here and for championing our youth initiative. Over $11 million going to Spokane and 3 other communities in the state, specifically to make sure that more young people don't go from foster care or a state facility or end up homeless. And in addition to that, there are behavioral health investments, partnerships with the county and with nonprofits to create specialized facilities, because we know that mental and behavioral health is a huge part of the problem, and you don't want to treat that problem in a city or county jail. So I just want to thank the nonprofits. The nonprofits have really stood up. 30% of our funding has gone specifically to directly to nonprofits. 70% of our funding in this initiative is going based on the requests of the city through to city proposed nonprofits. This project was in fact proposed in July in a letter by the mayor and the city council president Beggs. And knowing that it had this 100-bed long-term housing effect, we acted on that immediately. But it's not enough, as the governor said. And I think that the real answer here is that we just continue coming up with solutions, working together, and acknowledging that facilities like this are a much better place to be than either on the streets or in a shelter with no privacy. And let's move forward and not have these outdoor homeless encampments next year. Thank you. And I'll bring up my colleague, Secretary Roger Millar of the Department of Transportation. And Roger, I want to thank your people here in Spokane who have been working very tirelessly to help us with the Camp Hope encampment so that we could get into a position to assess people and begin transitioning them. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Governor. This isn't the traditional role of the Secretary of Transportation. In my traditional role, I'd be telling you to stay away from our snowplows. Don't try to pass them. But we have found ourselves, I've often talked about the relationship between housing and transportation. And when you live in a community where almost 2/3 of the housing is not affordable for the families that live here, and vacancy rates are next to zero. I think they're 3.4% in Spokane right now, apartment vacancy rates. We become a partner because the homeless come to our rights of way. So it's great to be here among so many of our partners at all levels of government and the community, the folks who are dedicated to the state's right-of-way initiative, to the closing of Camp Hope here in Spokane, and most importantly, dedicated to bringing more housing capacity online to bring people inside. Living homeless is fraught with danger, particularly in our rights of way, where we have active traffic and other inherent risks. But we have encampments in our right of way all over the state. They're a challenge we face in every county. What we've learned and long acknowledged is the best way to resolve these encampments is working with local providers to ensure that the people living homeless are matched with the right services, safer shelter and long-term housing options. And that upfront work, while it takes time and it costs money, helps ensure that once they leave our right-of-way, they stay living inside. If this outreach work doesn't happen, if encampments are simply cleared out, we know from experience that they're going to reappear somewhere else. Camp Hope is the result of the city sweeping a camp without resolving the issues. Sweeps, clearing a site without offering assistance, are housing options that just moves the problem. It doesn't resolve it. It doesn't address the needs, the real needs of the people living outside, which is safe and secure housing. So while the work takes time, we know from our experience here in Spokane and elsewhere in the state that the approach does work, and it provides a better chance to end the cycle of homelessness. We've seen early success in other parts of the state. The governor in this issue is a very impatient man. Lisa and I have learned that the last several months. Do it now, do more now. What we've done since July is we've moved over 160 people living at 11 encampments around the state. They've been transitioned into housing, shelter, the services they need to get back on their feet and away from the issues that we address. Of those 160, almost all of them are still working with us to better their lives. And we're connecting those individuals to the right kind of services. At Camp Hope, we've seen a number of people living outside decline since this summer when we began the initiative. With our outreach and our stabilization, our initial census counts as a part of the work to close the encampment. I truly appreciate the work and the partnerships of everyone in the room today. We represent the hope that Camp Hope was named for. So together, we're bettering the lives of those living homeless and those who live and work in proximity to the encampments. The opening of this Catalyst project will make a significant difference in all of our efforts to close Camp Hope. So thank you, and thank you all for your continued dedication and good work.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks, everyone. Let's make no mistake about this. Homelessness is a solvable problem. It's solvable in Spokane, it's solvable in our state, it's solvable in our country. To not believe that is to take on the language of the opposition, the language of negativity. We believe this is a solvable problem. Today is one of the solutions towards that problem, and it's essential that we solve it. The numbers on homelessness are staggering. The average chronic street superutilizer homeless person in Spokane can spend anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000 a year per person per year on police, fire, ER, hospital, jail, court, social services costs. Or for about $9,000 a year, they can be in the Catholic Charities Permanent Supportive Housing Unit downtown or in a place like the Catalyst. It's $3,500 a night to be in the hospital for one night. It's $1,200 a night to be in Eastern State for a night. It's $150 a night to be in jail for a night. Our cost per unit in our shelters is more in the $30 range. So this is an obvious math issue, and it's solvable. When the community and the political will is there, this is solvable. Catalyst is an example of the community will and the political will being there to try and solve the problem, and here we are. 60 days later, this building is open, and we're going to move people in this week. That's a great moment for our community, and keep in mind, for the community, 500,000 people in Spokane County, and for the vast majority of them, this homelessness issue is the #1 issue in the last 2 election cycles. People in our community, 500,000 people in our community want this problem solved. They want solutions like this. That's community will. Lisa Brown and Commerce and Department of Transportation and the governor providing the funds for this, that's political will. We have the 2 legs. All we need now is the spirit to do it and the passion to do it, and that's Dawn Kinder and her team here at Catalyst. So we're looking forward to this being very successful. At Catholic Charities, we're very committed to the dignity of every human being. Every human person is made in the image and likeness of God. They are our brother, our sister. They are our mother and our father. They are our son. They are our daughter. We love them. We love all of them. And so we have to treat the least among us with the most joy and the most support and the most compassion. That's what we do at Catholic Charities. That's what we've been doing for 110 years. We're not going to back down from that. We're not going to shy away from it. We're always going to be there for people in need. This program is a great example of that. We thank the governor and Trudy for being here. Roger and Lisa, thank you both for being part of that political will, being part of the solution. And thank you to the entire community. For the Spokane community that wants to see this problem solved, this is the first step. We do not believe that any human being should eat, sleep, or go to the bathroom outdoors. We're better than that as a community. We're better than that as a county, as a state, as a country. We can be better than that, and today we are being better than that. So thank you all for being here. We're going to open it up for some questions for the governor, or Lisa, or Roger, or Catholic Charities, or myself. Anything that you want to ask, we'll try and answer it. So we'll open it up.
Mr. McMahon, Amanda Rowley with CREM 2. Can you talk about a little bit more about the resources that will be in-house? And I mentioned of 4 mental health professionals. If you could dive a little more into that.
The thing I do best at Catholic Charities is I hire people much smarter than me, so I'm going to have Dawn answer that question. She's in charge.
No pressure. So yeah, we're going to have case managers on site as well as certified peer supports. We're also going to have 4 mental health specialists, 2 substance use counselors, and then we've got an operations team of about 16 and a neighborhood safety team of 9. So each floor in the building has a joint office for a care coordinator and a certified peer. They'll be serving everybody living on that individual floor, and then our operations teams, behavioral health teams, and safety team will collectively wrap around the building as a whole.
Dawn, can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Because I think this is a really important point. The strategy here is to do things that are effective, to not just play whack-a-mole with people who are homeless, but actually solve their problems long term. And what we've learned is to be most successful to do that takes not only the mental health professionals, but a secure private place to live so you can get your feet underneath you. I remember talking to a guy in Vancouver at a place where he says, you know, when I got a place to live that was private, I could finally beat my chemical addiction. And that's what this environment is providing. So it is not only the professionals, but it is the environment that allows people to be more secure in private. And that's why this investment makes sense to get this job done. And I think we got the perfect mix right here.
I have a question for Director Brennan. The other investments that are rolling out as a part of this initiative in Spokane, do we have an idea of when those might come online and the timeline for all these other housing options being available?
Yes, and I also have an expert here I might call up, Ted. For more detailed questions, you can talk to him. But some of them are already online. But we're enhancing and amplifying shelter, and that is not just the track shelter. Commerce has committed about $2 million to the track shelter for people that go from Camp Hope to the shelter, but also other shelter facilities that are already established and probably in maybe somewhat better shape than Trent since it started as a warehouse. So Hope House, we're making a significant investment in Hope House, and in some other shelters in the community, I believe, Family Promise, and Ted can give you the details on the others. We're also investing in housing. We're helping with housing vouchers that provided federally. So I think there are at least 30 of those that people will have a housing voucher to go into the private market. And we're working with other providers that will help locate apartments where people can be housed in appropriate housing environments. So it's a combination of both. The legislative proviso said to emphasize long-term solutions and prioritize providers who are providing long-term solutions.
While we're on long-term solutions, Carl with Range Media, Spokane has a hard time meeting its existing obligations to providers who are providing homeless services in the community. By adding more, it seems to be something that's going to need to be sustained by the state or some other revenue source. How committed is the state to projects like this being something that's here for decades and decades?
Take this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that question. We are now finalizing our budget proposal to the legislature. You are going to see very significant ambition and aggressive approach to this statewide. I'm very hopeful the legislature will join me in upping our game in this regard, because the existing funding is not adequate to serve and to solve this problem. So in the upcoming session of the legislature, you are going to see some big asks of the legislature and the people of the state of Washington to really tackle this problem. So we are totally committed to this. We are a better state than this, and we know that we have available solutions if we make these investments. Look, this works. People get their lives back, and it's really exciting when you talk to people. I was just telling you about this guy down in Vancouver. He says, look, this place that I got saved my life, literally. That's pretty exciting, and that happens. These mental health professionals work miracles. It's very gratifying. So these are investments that pay off. So we're getting people back on their feet rather than spending a night in the jail or 2 weeks in the hospital, as Rob talked about. So you bet, we remain committed. Now, I want to reiterate this. Dollars are not the only solution here. We need some legislative action so we can build more housing. Fundamentally, not only do we have a problem with people with mental health and chemical addiction issues, but we have a fundamental problem. We don't have housing in our state. We've only built housing for every 2 people who moved here. We've only built housing for 1 in the last decade. We have to build more housing. And one of the solutions to that is to open up more land that is currently wired off or barbed wired off. We can't build housing because of our antiquated zoning. So we will be asking the legislators again to make more land available so people can have more housing. And I'm sure there's more work we can do as well. Yeah.
Governor, I wanted to ask you about the people who aren't here, namely the sheriff and the mayor, who have been calling for you to come to Spokane, address people here, engage with them. Can you tell me about, like you were talking about in Vancouver and King County, we've seen you with local representatives from government. Can you tell me about what it's going to take to have a relationship here with those leaders?
Well, we do have a relationship. Our Department of Commerce has been very, very active in discussions with the city and county for months, and the proof is in the pudding. You now have a very rapid, look, to get this up and running in months is really kind of a miracle, frankly. And this rapid housing is working here and in the state of Washington. To get a fire suppression system built here in 60 days is a miracle. So we are seeing success here in Spokane County. We have been disappointed. It seems like some of the local officials are more interested in headlines rather than housing. And we don't think lawsuits and lawyers are going to solve this problem. We think love is. We think loving the people and helping them solve these problems long term is what's going to solve this problem. And we hope all of us focus on those solutions rather than complaining. And the more we do that, the more successful we will be. I can tell you this has been on my mind very frequently as governor. Whether I'm physically here or not, Lisa and Roger can tell you that we have very frequent conversations about homelessness. And by the way, it's not just Camp Hope. Camp Hope is not the only problem with homelessness in Spokane County. This is a longer-term issue. It's going to require longer-term solutions, even beyond Camp Hope. We hope that people can solve this problem so they're no longer in Camp Hope in the upcoming months. But even after that happens, we got a lot of work to do here in Spokane County. Anything else?
Governor, you were in town last week. I'm Guy talking about from HQ. You were in town last week, a week and a half ago, and you took a picture with Julie Garcia, who's one of the service providers out there, and you toured Camp Hope. What are your thoughts on the conditions out there and just how things have gone so far?
Well, I had several impressions. One, you know, we got to do better in this, right? Having people live in these conditions is unacceptable, no question about it. But I have to tell you, I think there have been some improvements there. Not only the reduction in the number of people who've been there the last several months, but I think that the fencing that provide a visual protection to the community, the security that's now provided. I just pulled up unannounced and saw people checking people as they went in and out, and security personnel. Some of the provisions to provide some modest degree of hygiene. We wish the locals were more cooperative about that. But I actually thought it was relatively well managed for my brief period of time. I didn't do an extensive review of it. But we want to get those people into better solutions. Some of them can do well in shelter, but many, many, many of them need a lot more intensive work, including the kind of thing that's happening at Catalyst. So we're looking forward to their success.
Mr. McCann, can you speak to the security of the...
Oh, by the way, can I say something, because I keep forgetting? Thank you to Catholic Charities, what they're doing. This is incredible what they're doing for everyone. And one of the things Rob said is, they love non-Catholics. That made me feel pretty good. So.
We love everybody. It's the best thing about us. Okay.
Could you speak to the security? I know there's folks that live near this building that are concerned about the overflow or just crime that may come with the population that's coming here. So what can you tell us about the security on the property?
Yeah, great question. We have 8 full-time security officers. There'll be 2 here at all times. Is that correct, Dawn?
9 full-time.
We also have an AI-enhanced video camera system. We can recognize who our residents are, even if they're wearing a hoodie or a mask. It measures their height, their stride, everything about them, so we know who's coming in. You can't get into this property unless you're one of the residents. We will not let anyone else in. We do the same thing we do with all of our Catholic Charities properties. All of our neighbors will get a special cell phone number. When they call it, they'll get an immediate response from our security and our staff. So if someone is loitering around Dorian Studios across the street, they call a number, we're going to be there in 60 seconds. We do that with all of our Catholic Charities properties. We have 2,700 units of apartments all over Eastern Washington. This is a regular thing for us. Security obviously is an important part for this population because there is a criminal element in our community that preys on the homeless. They are human traffickers, they are drug dealers, they are criminals. They wait for the first week of the month when everyone gets their check and they beat them up and they rob them. They take their meds, they take their stuff. We're here to protect them from those criminal elements. So the security features in this building are designed to keep people out who are a criminal element and to welcome in with love and compassion the people who want help, who need help, who want to better their lives.
And who can come here? I mean, there's 100 beds. Who's welcome
I'm
here?
gonna have
So
Dawn
we'll-
answer that
And
one.
we've got time for just one more question. I know the governor needs to move on, but we're receiving all of our referrals for Catalyst directly from the peer navigators on site at Camp Hope. So the folks that have been contracted to work with EHF and the Spokane Low Income Housing Consortium are providing those directly to us. We've already received about 20 of those referrals. There's actually staff on level 4 right now scheduling intakes for Thursday. So we'll continue to receive those referrals. Once the camp is cleared, we'll be able to look at those referral conditions again, but we've got 100 beds here to fill and we're focused on that first.
So it's referral only?
Referral only, correct, yep. We've got one more question and then we're gonna have to move along if anybody's got a quick one left.
Are there requirements to staying here?
Yeah, I mean, there's some participation requirements that people need to be compliant with. So there are expectations around behavior. Those are focused on safety. So if folks are not able to behave safely in the facility, we'll be asking them to exit. However, we'll be doing that with them. So we'll be connecting folks to the next resource. They will not just be discharged out of the building, but we will expect folks to follow those safety rules and expectations. And our staff will be on site to really work with them through a behavior modification approach to try and bring them into compliance before we try and move anybody along.
I want to add something before we leave here, and that is to thank the citizens of the state of Washington of making this investment. This is an investment by the people of the state of Washington to help Spokane County, and we're doing it the right way. We're also doing it the right way that is compliant with the law. I think one of the things the mayor does not understand, I don't know if why she won't read the law requires us to emphasize and prioritize the kind of solutions that are, in fact, long-term solutions. To not just throw up warehouses and think that's going to solve the problem. These folks need more than that to solve the problem. And the legislature, in my opinion, wisely insisted that we emphasize the kind of things that actually work long-term, rather than our Band-Aids that don't solve the problem and just kick the can down the road. We're not kicking the can down the road. We're helping rebuild lives here. And we're doing that because that's what the law instructs us to do. And I want to thank everybody involved, particularly the Catholic Charities, and I'll look forward to more success stories here. This is just the beginning. We have a long road. It's not going to be solved tomorrow, but we're heading on the upswing here in Spokane County. Thank you.
Thanks, Governor.
So anybody who wants a tour, feel free to hang tight. Otherwise, we're going to let folks who want to leave go ahead and move on, and then I'm happy to take media through a quick tour of the building if they want that.